I am live, and we'll see if anybody pops in. I should advertise these more than I do, but I have not been doing that lately. I have been just going live with it. Yep, so we'll see. I don't know if anybody will pop in, but there's always a chance. Tanisha, hello. How are you doing? This way I can just see what I'm doing here. Tanisha, hit the thumbs up button for me so that way more and more people know that I'm on. How was your day today, Tanisha? How was your day? Just trying to keep busy. Is there any particular reason you're trying to keep busy, or is that just what you want to do? I wonder if there's a dark theme on this, because it would be much better on the eyes. For me, not for you, just for me. But I do not see it. I do have another question for you. Can you hear me okay? Do I sound okay? Just trying to keep busy in general. That's good. I've been doing that the last few days too, just trying to keep busy in general. Good. Am I clear? Do I come in clear with the face? I mean, can you... you know what I'm saying. Well, I sure hope more people come in, because it would be fun to have more people in. But, you know, if it's just you and I, it's just you and I. We'll just talk for a little bit. So, anything new other than just trying to keep busy? Yesterday when I was on live, it took took a few minutes for more people to pop in, so let's hope more people pop in. Let us hope. But then again, I guess you never know. I do have 3 likes though, so there's a possibility that other people are watching this. But we'll see. We will see. If anybody else is out there, say hello. I used to get, back in the day, a lot of people used to pop in my live streams, but then I stopped doing them, so I need to start doing them again. More and more and more. Let me go see if there's anybody I can invite real quick. I'm not sure if I can, though. Let me see. We'll see. We're going to invite a couple people. I don't know if anybody will pop in, though. We'll see. We'll see. It says 3 people watching, but only 2 people talk. Only 1 person talking. So I'd like to see more people talk. We can talk about whatever you guys want. I'll even have somebody come on if they want to come on and talk. We will see. Excuse me. Cold-blooded monsters. How are you doing? And how's everything where you're at? How's everything going? I hope everything's going good. Everything's going good here, so. It's an open chat. We'll discuss anything you want. But sometimes he starts slow. So, doing good. And you? Oh, I'm doing great. I can't complain. I cannot complain. Yet. It could happen, but not at the moment. I got baby crested geckos being born. I got leopard gecko eggs in the incubator. Trying to think. I should have some gargoyle geckos. I got gargoyle gecko, but I have like a male and another female coming, so that'll be a good thing. I got more crested geckos coming. Isopods are doing good. Tarantulas are doing good. Yeah, everything seems to be doing good here. I just need to let people know what I'm doing these more. That I'm coming live. Well, that sucks, Tanisha. What are they doing that you call them crazy person? What are they doing? I hope they ain't doing anything too crazy. Yeah, isopods are fun. I've been, I got like, let me see, 20 different types. There's some that are the same species, but different color morphs. So altogether, I got like 20 different color morphs of not all the same, but just different things. And I find them very enjoyable. They're a lot of fun. I can do a lot with them. They're pretty cool. I think you would enjoy them. Let's hope more people pop in. Get this chat rolling. Oh, yeah, well, isn't it good to be asked questions though? So that way, at least they're, is that a good thing to ask you questions? I don't know. Maybe they're more interested in this one than they are your other ones. Because you would think them asking all these questions about this one might pull this one out and make people read it and check into it more. Okay. I got to start doing more regular videos too. I haven't been on the ball with the videos lately. And I need to do that with more of my stuff. Let me see how many people are watching now. Let me see. Still only 3, so 2 of you are talking and 1 is not. So we'll give it a little bit more time and see what happens. I do not know if anybody will pop in though. I did send messages out though, but you know, this is kind of a surprise live stream, I guess you could say. So cold-blooded, anything new with your animals or anything like that? If you're still in here? Because now we're down to 2. I have a feeling somebody left. Well, if we're down to 2, then yes, definitely somebody left. Tanisha, what's your fan fiction about? Nah, nothing new. I suppose they are. They grow. They grow pretty. Stuff like reptiles, most of the time, not everything, but a lot of the time grows pretty quick. Oh, that's pretty cool. Pokemon's always cool. Well, I've been on almost 20 minutes and only a couple people come in, so I may not hang on long. It just seems like it might be a dead night out there, huh? Anybody see anything new on TV or anything like that? I've been watching the Moon Knight from Marvel. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, Stevie. I was thinking Stevie would probably he would probably like it. Yeah, a knight, like KNIT, like a knight. Yeah, it's a pretty cool show. I thought it was interesting anyway. Yeah, well, it's been 20 minutes, so two people. I should put it out that I'm going to start doing these more because they get kind of boring, I guess, if it's just me sitting here, you're watching me. Because unless there's a subject somebody wants to talk about, if there's a subject you want to talk about it, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to give you my thoughts on it. Oops, sorry. Give me 1 second, guys. Oh, there we go. Party's just getting started. Sorry, guys, I was answering something. Party's getting started now. Todd, how are you? Lone Star Law, pretty good show. I used to watch it. So, Todd, what is up? How are you doing? Yes, bring something up. Anything. Go ahead, Todd. Bring up a subject. We'll discuss it real quick. Let me think of something. I don't know. I don't know what to talk about. How the world is going right now? It's a total mess. Total mess. Hey, there we go. Live freedom or live freedom, live freedom, whichever way you want to say it. How are you doing? This is how you are when you. Yeah, if people brought up some kind of. I'm doing good. I can't complain. Do you have anything you would like to discuss or anything? We'll talk about it for sure. Can I get your name so I can call you by your name? Like I call Todd, you know, the Roundup rodeo guy. I call him, his name is Todd, and I call him, I'd like to know everybody's name if it's possible. Jay. Is it okay if I call you Jay? I'm just checking something out here real quick, guys. Sorry about that. Weird. Strange. Alright, I got that figured out. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Huh. I didn't even know there was another live going on at the moment. Sorry. So how have you been, Todd? How are things going? Doing well. That's good. That's good. That is really good. So, Todd, when do you start your going out and herping and videoing and stuff like that? When do you start that? Oh, that'll be nice. Gonna get some good video and pictures and stuff, I suppose. It's a lot of fun, I suppose. Yeah, like when do you start going out? And I suppose you could do it now because I'm sure it's warm enough down there. But when is your busiest time of the year for it? Like here, it's still, I mean, it's cold here, so there's nothing out yet. Which kind of blows my mind because if you think about it, the season for these animals to be out and do all their growing, feeding, giving birth, and stuff like that, and getting ready for the next season is very, very short up here. It makes you wonder how they actually accomplish all that in that short little window. Plus the spring emergence, yeah. I would love to talk to you about your roundups, what you think of, not your roundups, but your honest opinion on, is it sustainable, the roundups I do? Is it really, really sustainable? Is it like slowly coming to an end? Do you want to see it come to an end? Well, it's not during the summer really rough, but just in general, like bull snakes and stuff like that, and even hognose snakes and stuff, the window is so small for them to come out, mate, eat, lay eggs, and all this stuff. It's really short. And you know, hognose snakes in the wild, most of the time, double clutch. I don't know if you knew that or not, but they do. Sure, I can get you the link. Hold on. We'll see. Be kind of cool. Get him on here. Oh, there he is. There he is. Hey, what's up?
Not a lot, Andrew. How are you doing?
No, I'm not doing too bad. I can't complain. It's just cold here right now, but
Well, we're still a little cold down here, so
you
um,
you probably won't get no more snow though.
no, that's got to be over. Hang on.
Yeah,
No, I figured asking the questions you were asking, it'd be easier for me to just come on the show. I was getting
yeah.
feedback from the other room, so
Oh, yeah,
okay, now I'm back. Um, yeah, no, the snow should be over. Although we had a snow about a month ago.
yeah.
Your cold weather snakes are starting to pop right now and have
Down
been
there,
for a
right?
few weeks. Garters, rough greens, hognose, um, things like that.
Yeah,
And really, March, April, and May seem to be like the best times of the year.
because they're just coming out. Yeah,
Yeah, like summer, it's too hot. Everything starts estivation again,
yeah.
and they start going back underground like through the end of July and August, and then start of September you don't see anything. Then around the middle of September you start seeing things move back to the den, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make a lot of sense. Now here, like next week, we're supposed to get like 5 or 6 inches of snow again next
Oh,
week.
oh
So,
gosh.
and we don't usually start seeing things here until June because you can even get snow in June up here. And the window is very short, and it just blows my mind to think like you got your garter snakes, your hognose snakes, and stuff like that. They come out and they do everything they have to do in such a short little window, and then they're back in hiding for 9 months again, 10 months out of the year. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I tell you one thing I've noticed, and we were 2 weekends ago. We went to a rattlesnake den down in the Lawton area of southwest Oklahoma, and I went with a guy who's kind of new to herping, and he was like, it's 55, 60 degrees out here. Do you think we'll have a chance of seeing anything? I said, absolutely, because where we were going was very rocky, and like down in those rocks, it gets, broken. It gets protected from the wind,
Hmm.
and then the sunlight focuses down on a patch of ground. And without the wind protection, right there in that spot, if you put a temp gun on it, it's going to show 75, 80, 85 degrees.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to think about it from the snake's perspective a little bit. Um, it really, you can really, in Oklahoma, you can pretty much herp all year round if you wanted to. If you wanted to go out for things like amphibians, because salamanders are pretty big from November to February,
Oh.
like over like in the eastern part over by
Hmm.
Tahlequah, by the Arkansas state line. And if it's above freezing, if it's 34 degrees, those suckers will be moving.
Oh, see. Yeah. But up here, it gets like sub-zero temperatures. So,
Yeah, you guys get
yeah.
like 30 and 40 below up there. It's
Yeah.
I don't see how you do it, honestly. I just I literally don't. I good luck.
Good luck. So, do you think these roundups are sustainable?
Well, that's kind of a double-edged question, but and here's why. Roundups anymore fall into two categories: the southwestern United States and the southeastern United States.
Hmm.
The southeastern targets the Eastern Diamondback and the timber rattlesnake, but primarily the Eastern Diamondback. We all know it's being considered for protected status
Hmm.
by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Um, in the West, like with the Western Diamondbacks, I hate to be the one to say that, yeah, it's sustainable. Um, and I've got reasons backing that. But it is. I mean, I used to put out a lot of propaganda that, we're going to hunt these snakes into extinction.
I remember.
And we're really not. And, biologists disagreed with me and stuff. And I was like, well, okay, tell me why and show me why. Help me understand a little. And so basically in the West, I'm not nearly as worried about what's happening here as what's happening in the East, the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Eastern Diamondback is, Florida is like growing by 3,000 people a month.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I can't blame people for wanting to move there either. But I only see where there's going to be a lot more habitat destruction, habitat loss, and things. And I think the Eastern Diamondback is literally, it should have been protected at least from hunting pressures, 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But, nobody listens to me. um, or a lot of other people. But in the West, there's a lot of misinformation coming from like people on our side of the fence, and a lot of that's disturbing. That's kind of why I've backed out of RAR, kind of backed away from it, backed away from being involved with a lot of the people that I was involved with, because at the end of the day, the biologists and herpetologists do not agree with like some of the propaganda and things that are going on. The Western Diamondback is the Western Diamondback rattlesnake is the main target in the southwestern hunts. Occasionally, a few other species show up, but it's a very rare occurrence. And there's a few factors that come into play. One, let me go on record. I'm not a fan of not unauthorized, but unregulated commercial collecting. Never have been. Don't care what you do with them. Don't care if it's for pet trade, for skinning them, for the organs, for the meat. Irrelevant. If a snake comes out of the wild, a snake's coming out of the wild. And to just be able to say you can take 50 of this species or 100 or 300, it's much different than picking up one bull snake or one king snake for a friend to add to their bloodlines.
Yeah.
And then, me, I would only do that for someone I was confident that could make something like that work.
Yeah.
How rare are what life freedom? You might let me clarify on that in a minute. But back in the days of RAR and the days of like actually, people in the reptile community actually like respecting me and stuff. We were kind of like, we were a bunch of college kids with no money going up against all these organizations that had been in business for 50 years, had financial support from their national headquarters. Today, there's a group that's like organizing a lawsuit against Texas Parks and Wildlife. I'm not going to mention their name. I'll tell it to you later in Messenger. But I feel like that's really a bad thing to do at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because Texas Parks and Wildlife also works with other herpetologists on other projects. And if something's going to lose out, it's not going to be deer hunting money. It's not going to be quail hunting money. It's going to be anything that focuses on reptiles. And I'm kind of shocked to see some of the people I was in RAR with actually kind of support this and think this is a good idea, because I'm sitting there saying this is not, in my opinion. And that's another thing is, 15, 20 years of touring 3 or 4 of these every year. I think I've got an idea of what goes on. I think I've got the behind the scenes stuff, and I think we need to kind of walk away from it all at this point in the West, because like if you go back to 1980, in Texas alone, there were 44 rattlesnake roundups.
Yeah.
This is documented in the Texas Rattlesnake Roundup book by, gosh, I cannot remember the guys' names. They're academics, but they took stuff from like Dr. Lee Fitzgerald, the late Dr. Charlie Painter, people like that, to make this book, and they did their homework, and they did their homework well. And today there's like less than 5 roundups. Of course, the big one in Texas being Sweetwater.
Water. Mm-hmm.
But what a lot of other people aren't getting is, like, they say, well, there's, Brownwood. Well, Brownwood gets excess snakes from Sweetwater. There's a lot of, interstate marketing and stuff like that. And I don't see that Western Diamondback is anywhere close to being endangered. I just don't. And I don't think that the hunting has been, I think it has, like, knocked back some localized populations.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as making, I see people on Facebook, well, say, well, they have to go to New Mexico to get rattlesnakes. And these are people that have never herped Nolan County, Snyder, Texas, Wichita Falls, Texas, places that still, I hate to say it, but they still have plenty of rattlesnakes. There's a lot of land where these animals are quite well protected. Private oil leases, things like that, where hunting is not allowed. And, some of the workers may kill them, but, people aren't going out there and gassing dens.
That's one of the things I don't like, is the gassing part. Good morning, Kathy. What I was going to say is, I would like to see them, because not be so, they kind of torture these animals, as far as I'm concerned, when they bring them in. I'd like to see them just come in to do their little thing and then release them. But for some reason, they don't like to do that.
No, and one thing is in the West, it's all money driven.
Mm-hmm.
In the Southeast, I'm not really certain. I know the snakes at, like, Opp, Alabama, which is the only one that's still an actual, as I understand it, traditional rattlesnake roundup.
Mm-hmm.
They might get 15 or 20 Eastern Diamondbacks. Not a lot of people are hunting snakes anymore. There's not a lot of market for the product. And what they're doing and how they're doing it and where those snakes are ending up, it's really kind of, not something I can keep an eye on from Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
But really, I kind of see the southeastern ones as being a thing of the past. And like you, I would like to see the animals receive better treatment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also like, you kind of got to look at both sides of this deal. A lot of, back in the early days of RAR, we would get pushback from reptile keepers who had been keeping reptiles for, 50 years and before me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, what, do you support this? Do you like this? And you find out things that, that, like, look at how the laws are written. Like in Oklahoma, from March to July, you can be in possession of as many rattlesnakes as you want with a hunting license.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's good and there's bad to that. Like, I can go catch 3 snakes, make videos with them, do a few education shows, things like that, and not have to worry about, getting permits and doing this and doing that. Now, the bad side of that is you can go collect as many snakes as you can find at a den. Oklahoma's pretty serious about not buying gassed snakes. And I sit at the buyer's tables at a lot of these hunts. And I can tell you, in Oklahoma, they will watch for it. Mm-hmm. In Texas, they don't care. I mean, they just, like, literally don't care. And that's kind of going to be, then Texas passed laws to where, like, only people from Texas can comment to Texas Parks and Wildlife, things like that. So you see all these goofy petitions. Every year, someone starts a new one, and it does absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Now, Jay wanted to know what the rarest snake you've ever seen is.
Jay. Oh, Jay. Ugh.
Yeah.
Rarest snake I've ever seen.
And hello, Derek.
Hey, Derek. Great life tonight. And Derek, you want to go back and catch DEA's live from last night. He dropped some science. You would want to see that. He's black. He's just like, shut up, Derek.
Todd as well.
Cracking me up. But rarest snake I've ever seen, probably a thinking probably like a black-headed plain snake, which isn't all that rare the further west you get.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just like there's like these fringe populations of them around here. Um, they're kind of more of a western species. I would guess that. I don't find a lot of the rare stuff. I find all the common stuff. So
The rarest one I ever seen was I was actually in Philadelphia getting ready to go fishing, and I seen an eastern milk snake. Very rare to find one. Just crawling around down by the river.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that those were that rare.
Well, in a city.
Okay, well, yeah.
But that's the rarest I've seen. I'm not talking about rare as in being like not finding them anywhere. And I think maybe a northern pine snake when I was in Jersey. I'd have to think back what it was.
Now
They're they're getting hard to find.
that would
So
be an awesome find. I really am fond of those. But yeah, it's
I'll check it out, Derek. I didn't see what you commented on it. I'll have to go check it out.
but like there's a there's a couple of different things like in Canopolis State Park in Kansas. Someone keeps taking Western Diamondbacks up there and letting them go.
Now, what would be the point of that? Why would somebody want to do that?
I think they're trying to establish a population up there so they don't have to come by them in Oklahoma. That's just my 2 cents. I don't really know that's what's going on. I do know that some of the commercial buyers involved with roundups and other aspects of commercial collecting
Mm-hmm.
are from Kansas. There's a couple of
Okay.
Kansas names in that mix. And that brings up another point that I kind of want to scream from the rooftops, but I don't know that anyone's going to bother to listen,
Okay.
is out of all the commercially collected rattlesnakes in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
only 30% of them are at roundups.
Oh yeah, people go out and just collect them.
Well, and the thing of it is the same people that are buying them from the roundups are also buying them just from individual hunters. So I'm sitting there going like, at the roundups, we kind of can go and look and see and know what's coming out of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Then we need to double that and add another 10% to it to get a real picture of what's going on.
See that? My comment yesterday. I do it.
Oh, I remember that, Derek.
Yeah. Yep.
But I thought you had the best words of wisdom, Andrew, for your live last night. You
Which
should do a
ones?
thank you video. That's like
Oh,
perfect.
that's what I said. Yeah, do it. If they ever call you out like that, do a thank you video, saying thank you for the shout out. I'm getting new subscribers. I'm getting more watch time. More power to you. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's just sad that that's kind of stuff is going on right now. But alas,
Yeah.
it is the reptile world.
Yeah, it's just a shame. Um, Now you talk about the Eastern Diamondback. Now I don't know how much you know about those, but did you see that they're starting to find populations of them on little islands that are smaller than the mainland ones because they're not being hunted out there as much and being forced out by people moving out there.
Yeah, yeah. We've kind of known for a while that they will traverse bodies of salt water
Mm-hmm.
to make it to these little mangrove islands, and what possesses them to do that we don't really know. But there are some places where there's still some good numbers of Eastern Diamondbacks. It's just they're also getting isolated by the emergence of cities, construction projects, highways, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, one hasn't been seen in Louisiana by a scientist in 50 years.
Wow.
But I still know people that find them down there, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say the people. They
Yeah,
wouldn't
because
tell
you don't
you the
want.
location anyway. Trust me.
Yeah,
But on that edge of Louisiana, there's still some out there.
yeah.
I don't care what the literature says. I'm pretty
Now,
sure these guys are legit.
when I lived in Manford, the
Hmm.
neighbor got a rattlesnake. I'm trying to think of what kind it was, and it was very rare because they're usually not found there at all where that was at. But I can't remember what it was.
It was a timber rattlesnake.
I'm
Um,
sure. I bet you it was. Yeah,
n-
most
n-
likely.
Now, actually, they're quite common in the area,
Yeah.
like around Keystone Lake.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them. But once again, they're a timber rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
They are masters at staying hidden.
Yeah.
A friend of mine picked one up on a trail cam that he had in the woods, and it sat in the same position and didn't move for 48 hours
Wow. Just sat
before.
there, huh?
Right. So these animals, they're masters at camouflage. They're not like the western and desert species that are kind of more defensive. You get close to one, they're going to bow up, they're going to start rattling.
Mm-hmm.
Timbers will keep their heads down, they will slink back under rocks. They my biggest problem in finding them is they usually see you coming before you see them.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be like sunning on a rocky outcrop, and you'll be coming up the hill. What I've learned is to come over the hill from the backside and kind of
Yeah.
sneak up on them.
And they're a darker animal too, so they can get in little spots and you won't even see them as well.
Right, and it's just and it's just there's actually some pretty healthy populations of timber rattlesnakes in Oklahoma. Um, Now, granted, I don't want to, you know, give out too much information
Mm-hmm.
on that because I want to keep those populations protected. But like in northeast Oklahoma and even north central Oklahoma, west of I-35, people don't think they exist west of I-35, but they do. Um, and granted, that's about the westernmost point of their range. Even if you draw the line down through Texas and up
Mm-hmm.
through Kansas, that's the westernmost part of their range. But the good news about them is they're not generally widely collected for things like roundups.
Yeah.
Occasionally, someone will go out and get one, um, maybe three or four, and that happens, but it's kind of rare.
What I did see a lot of when I was there was copperheads.
It,
Lots of copperheads in the area.
oh, it's Copperhead Central out here. I live about 2 miles from Manford today, and still have like family in that area,
Mm-hmm.
and Silver City, Terrellton out there.
That's where I lived in between Tarleton and Manford. But my
R-
kids went to school in Manford.
Ah,
Eyeball itches.
oh, that's good. But it's good that your kids went to Manford. It's not good that you have allergies.
No.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but it's people every year they start seeing copperheads, and it's like, guys, you live by a lake with a lot of rocks and a lot of wilderness area. Like everybody wants to live in the country, but they don't want the wildlife that lives there too.
No. Yeah. That's what we did. We lived right out in the woods, so of course you saw that stuff. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, but like here where I'm at now,
Hmm.
the county I'm in, there's prairie rattlesnakes in all the counties around me, and they try to say they don't live in this county. I said, I guarantee you, if you go out and look hard enough, you'll find one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but they got an attitude. Those guys, those
Oh,
prairie rattlesnakes.
I've got two of them. One will, um, I keep his enclosure covered up,
Mhm.
just so he won't strike like the lid. And he'll shoot venom like a
Oh
spitting
yeah.
cobra. Like he'll get his fangs stuck in that, and he will. The other one I have to watch him. I can't feed him live because like a mouse will start eating his rattle or something, and
Yeah.
he will just like hide under his box. So usually the prairie rattlers they're definitely high strung and high attitude. but they also, it depends on the snake. Every individual has its own personality, and they usually are known for wanting to tear your face off. But it's just like I said, I've got two of them. There's species I like. I would like to have more,
Mm-hmm.
but they're just kind of hard to find in Oklahoma. They're more in Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Western Kansas. And then up through where you are, they get pretty
Yeah.
common in South Dakota and some
Yeah.
parts.
My cousin owns a farm down there, and he can go out and find them every day.
Gosh.
It's a good place to be. He's got a lot of junk cars in his around his area and stuff. I mean, you can go out and find them all day long over there.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
I'll have to come up sometime.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's pretty cool. Do you remember Mandy, the prairie rattlesnake with the broken jaw from? Oh, I can't remember what the guy's name was. He's in
Yes.
Canada.
Yes. Ryan.
Ryan. That's it.
Ryan.
Yeah, he that thing was dying on him, and I finally had to email him and say, "Look, trust me when I'm telling you this. They hibernate in the winter. You have to cool it down so it hibernates. It will be fine when you bring it up." And he did that. He put it in a room, cooled it down, and then it started eating in the springtime, and he was fine. Mm-hmm.
I've had Western Diamondbacks that have went a year without eating,
Mm-hmm.
and then just one day they just out of the blue will eat for you. And I don't know what it is. They don't appear to lose like a lot of body weight. They don't get unhealthy looking. You know how like when a snake
Mm.
has parasites, they'll get all shriveled up.
Yep.
They don't do that. It's like it's almost like I think prairie rattlesnakes and probably Western Diamondback rattlesnakes are just two amazingly tough species. I mean, they survive. The prairie rattlesnake. I mean, they go up into central Canada, if
Mm-hmm.
I remember correctly.
That's
And
where that's where Ryan's at, is up in Canada.
yeah,
And I had
it,
to. He asked me. He goes, What makes you think your theory's right about putting him down?" I said, "Because if you keep him warm and he's not eating, they will lose weight. I mean, they'll because they're constantly moving." I said, "If you put them to sleep, they rest, they relax, and then I guess he asked a vet, and the vet was like, 'Yeah, well, try it. What would be the worst that would happen?' And it worked."
well, I'm glad you stepped in on that because
Yeah,
I remember that incident. I didn't know about the outcome,
yeah.
but
He ended up releasing it in the spring. It was fine.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I really like that guy. It's been a while since I've went to his channel, but
Yeah.
he's good people. He does good
Mm.
work. Um, it's kind of interesting because like right now I'm not brumating anything I
Mm.
have, um, and I kind of feel a little bad about that because some of these things I actually do want to breed and will probably try like a brumation next year. But we moved in the middle of winter this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, in the middle of winter last year. Had to think for a second, and so anyway, I have a climate controlled facility in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have a separate building away from the house. The wife is finally happy. She still is scared to death that like a tornado is going to hit us. There's going to be flying rattlesnakes everywhere. It's like, no,
I
there's
don't.
not.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's kind of because when I was down there, Becky wouldn't let me keep anything like that either. She's like, "No, because you know what would happen if something happened and you had to, same thing, run into the same scenarios." And I was like, "All right, I won't." So,
It's kind of funny. We have a lot of I live technically inside the Sand Springs city limits,
mm-hmm,
and like there's a place close by that does a corn maze every October,
mm-hmm,
and they always find rattlesnakes every year, and that's kind of like further closer to the city than where I'm at,
mm-hmm,
and and it's just like there's a lot of people see baby timbers out here and they think they're pygmy rattlesnakes, and they're not. They're actually baby timbers.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 4851 junction
Mm-hmm.
is the cutoff on this side of Tulsa, County, for how far north they go. Now, you go back around Tulsa over by Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, they go further north up over there, but they don't on this side of Tulsa. So it's interesting, but I'm getting to do some education over here, and do some nuisance calls here and there. I don't put myself as out there as I used to, because man, I tell you, there's I've been called out to get a rattlesnake out of someone's garage, and you get there and it probably was a garter snake based on where they live, and they're on meth or something, and there's just stuff like that that's just like and there's some interesting attitudes towards snakes out here. I will say that.
Oh, I know that for a fact. Now, have you ever? I know you like going out and herping. Have you ever went out and taken pictures of and video of any of the alligators that live in Oklahoma?
No, they live down in the southeast pocket of the state. Mm-hmm. It's an area. We used to not even talk about it. We used to say they weren't in Oklahoma. And then the internet comes along. People start taking pictures. And next thing you know, hell, you might as well say Red Slough Wildlife Management Area. If someone comes after me, it's not like it's a secret.
No, it's not a secret.
Right.
You can look it up.
Exactly. Me, it's an alligator. They're cool. We had a really unscrupulous reptile vendor here in the area. Mm-hmm. He's been ran out of herp shows before. They've let him get set up. Then they ask him to leave, and he generally is not known for putting out quality animals. He pretty much just goes out wild, collects stuff. He was selling baby alligators for like $20 in the parking lot of a reptile show in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And what they didn't know was that News 9 had sent some undercover people in.
I seen this whole thing.
Yeah, you saw that whole thing. That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I seen that.
And I jumped Phil Cross, who was the reporter who covered the story. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, you want to talk about an alligator? You ought to look at what these people are doing over here, with the Roundup issue and stuff. And I knew of 14, 15-year-old boys who had went into a Roundup, bought a rattlesnake, no vetting, no qualifications, got handed a rattlesnake in a burlap bag, things like that. And I tried to get him to look at it, and then he was one day just blocks my emails. He wanted to do the exotic pet angle.
Yeah, that's what he was trying to do. Yeah.
And yeah, but this guy, I've had my hands on 20 baby alligators over the past 2 decades. Mm-hmm. So there's some species in southeast Oklahoma, like the mud snakes, and things like that, and the glossy crayfish that I would love to go down there and try to find. But I stay in a lot of contact with younger herpers who are 16 to 21. Because those kids are nuts. They're like me when I was 16 to 21. They would, climb out on a tree limb that's going to break and fall in the swamp to try to get a picture of a water snake on a log. And they have such a hard time finding the target species. And these kids, they drink Red Bull. They stay up 2 or 3 days in a row. Mm-hmm. I see the videos on Instagram, and these guys are raking leaf puddles out of the swamps to try and turn up mud snakes, because we all know mud snakes eat amphibians. Mm-hmm. And, and so I know this one kid who's been down there 3 times on his 3rd trip. He finally got a mud snake. And so while I would like to go down there and spend some time in that area and look for alligators, I don't know that I would go down there with the whole, I have to find these targets or this is going to be a waste
Yeah.
mentality.
You laugh at these young people that do this climb a tree and fall out and all. They get right back up.
Oh yeah.
People like you and I now, when we get older, we chase a garter snake down and break our wrist and end up in the hospital with surgery.
Well, you saw what happened to me,
Yeah,
right?
that's why I said that.
It's like Autumn Graham from Hissy Fit. She was
Yeah.
like, she left a comment on one of my videos. She's like, plays with hundreds of venomous snakes, never gets bit, never gets hurt, chases non-venomous colubrid and dies. And I'm just like, leave me alone.
That's funny stuff there, boy. Chases a
Well,
clue ridden dies.
and I can't used to, 15 years ago, I had no problem getting 3 hours of sleep in my truck in a deserted area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that southeast corner of Oklahoma, man, it's really, really sketchy.
I
Um,
can just imagine.
I mean, and I was talking to one of my buddies who goes down there regularly, and he's like, "Well, Blake stays up while I sleep, then I sleep while Blake stays up. We switch off, we take turns, and we just point a gun everywhere at everything
Mm-hmm.
because it's just like it's real shady
Well,
down there."
that's like you get out by what was it called? Uh, Frog Rock over there. You've heard of Frog Rock, I'm sure.
hmm
It gets sketchy down over there too, with people doing some crazy stuff.
People ask me all the time, like, "Aren't you scared to go out in the woods?" And I'm like, "No." And the thing that scares me is the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not worried about the animals. It's the people that are out there that you gotta worry
The
about.
feral hogs, those are a bit of a concern. I go down to Okmulgee quite often.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of common species there, like a lot of copperheads, a lot of rat snakes, racers. It's no secret. But some of the people you roll up on down there or roll up on you down there,
Mm-hmm.
they're a little, you know.
Yeah.
And generally, I don't have any problems. But the feral hogs, they will charge you. You'll go up a
Oh,
tree real quick.
yeah, absolutely. They'll
Um,
charge you.
there's black bear down there, and
Mm-hmm.
you never see them, and they tend to leave you alone. But I generally carry things that help mitigate such situations should they occur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
Politically correct way of saying that, like freedom.
yep.
Like
Sometimes
freedom's
you have to.
like freedom's probably laughing at me, but he's like, he gets it.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any place in the country you would like to go herping that you haven't been?
I really want to hit Arizona hard this year. I don't know if it's going to work out, but Arizona and the desert, that whole ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
is like the one place I would really like to hit. Would I love to hit the Everglades? Yes.
Oh, that'd be
Um,
fun too. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it would be absolutely amazing. But when you look at the amount and diversity of species that I want to see in the wild that I haven't seen in the wild, probably Arizona, Southern California, New Mexico, somewhere in there, close to the border, is where I'm going to want to be. Now, I would love the Everglades, no doubt. There's a lot of species down there, but a lot of those species I won't say like I haven't seen a Florida cottonmouth in the wild. I've seen them in captivity
Mm-hmm.
because now we've got the northern and the Florida
Mm-hmm.
and or the western and I can't remember. They change up taxonomy
They
anymore.
always do it. Goof up.
But
You,
but like seeing a wild Eastern Diamondback, that would be pretty insane.
yeah.
My partner Bill Rulon Miller. Do you know Bill?
I don't know. Don't think so. No.
Okay. Well, he was kind of one of the other brains in RAR back in the day, and he's made like 2 or 3 trips to Florida for an Eastern Diamondback and never turned one up.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's just it's kind of you kind of at our age, I think I kind of weigh the how far am I going to have to go to see a lot of what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
I evaluate these things. I primarily road cruise these days instead of hiking through the woods. Still do some of that, but I've got bad arthritis in my knees and ankles. and I can be laid up 3 or 4 days after a solid,
Yeah.
5 mile hike. Um, so it's just kind of like I drive to this spot, get out and check it out. Drive over here to this spot, flip some rocks, get out and check it out, and then road cruise back and forth. Gas prices being what they are, I don't know how that's going to work this year, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't I don't know how far I would go. It would be, you know, it would be something to weigh in your head, thinking, well, how much am I going to suffer the next day after finding, and you're not guaranteed to find anything.
exactly, and that's kind of what I weigh is like we hiked about a mile and a half off the road on private property to a known den site.
Hmm.
And my friend, because he's a local down there, he has relationships with a lot of the landowners. And he told them, hey, let us on here. If ever you ever start having a problem with snakes, call us. Don't say anything about it on Facebook.
Hmm.
This is an area that's like 5 miles away from a pretty well attended roundup. So
Hmm.
we want to make sure that that area stays protected. A lot of those private farms through there are.
Yeah.
So, but we hiked like a mile and a half, and that was a lot for me. And I had to take some Tylenol that night. But, I also look at the fact that I don't, I got married in 2015, and I'm not blaming marriage, but I probably have gained 50 pounds, 45 to 50 pounds since I got married
Yeah. It
and
happens.
stuck at home a lot, and things like that.
I know. There's a place in Georgia. I think it is. I think it's Georgia anyway. But they have the albino cottonmouths. They have a little population of them. I would love
Hmm.
to go see those in the wild.
And that's me. I would love to visit like an area like that and see something like that in the wild.
Hmm.
Seeing him in captivity is just
I
not.
know.
I mean, we used to do the Texas Rattlesnake Festival in started in Austin, then we moved it to Houston, and some of the people, some of those southeastern breeders, Don Hyatt, Miguel Joliffe, people like
Hmm.
that. I think they all contributed snakes, and so like you would see these bubblegum atrox, like a pink Western Diamondback rattlesnake,
Hmm.
and you just see the dangest things in captive collections, and that I mean, not knocking it, not ripping it, not saying it's a bad thing. It just seeing it in captivity does not float my boat. A friend of mine went down to the Oklahoma Texas state line and found an albino ringneck snake.
Oh, I seen it. I seen pictures of that.
Yeah, that kind of got around and that was a field herp find for him. It wasn't for me, it was for him. But I got
Yeah.
some video of it while I had the chance. And but finding something like that in the wild would be ultimately cool. You know, seeing it in captivity, it's not going to float my boat the same way.
No, that's like up in Kansas. They found an scaleless bull snake in the wild.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a baby one, and they won't tell what county they were in or anything because they said people would flock there to try to catch as many bull snakes as possible because the genetics are there. They would decimate the area real quick.
It sadly it would.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a big scaleless snake person,
No, I'm not either. But people think money. Money rules everything for
uh,
some reason.
and that's so sad.
Hmm.
Um, I had two Holmes Hinchback tortoises that were probably 4 and 6 years old,
Hmm.
and they like the hatchlings sell for $250 captive
Hmm.
bred. They're finally kind of getting established in captivity. When I got these, they were like 300 a piece.
Hmm.
This one guy in Oklahoma was one of 3 people in the country that had any luck with them. And I had sought out a keeper because they're a qualified, they're a high maintenance tortoise. They're a
Yeah.
tropical species. They're not like sulcatas or Russians where you can just put in a backyard pen. And I made the deal to sell them to him because everyone said this guy's the qualified guy. This is who you want him with. People from Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group backed this guy up and stuff. So I thought, okay, the deal is kind of done there. You know, it's like this is who they're going to. Then the pandemic hits, and then like I know nobody wanted to take a chance on shipping anything, and I was kind of the same way. These are like highly rare animals. I'd rather get in my truck and drive them to you, even though it'd be a 2-day journey. And by the time shipping restraints loosened up, he had to take his dog in for some vet care. And he's like, man, I still really want those, but man, I can't, just go on to the next buyer. And I thought, I had 50 people recommend this guy. So I just sent him to him.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, yeah, I could have made some money, but it's not everything. Getting the animals to the right place where they're going to be worked with by the right people is far more important than any money, could ever bring.
Yep.
I mean, at least in my philosophy book, some people would say I was nuts, but
I know somewhere around where you're at there's a person that breeds Gila Monsters. Yes, I talked to him all the time when I was in Manford, and they said the state doesn't have you just got to get a permit for those, but they'll come out and it's not hard to get. So
kind of depends on the county, but generally, like for anything venomous, if you're in like a city populated area, they're generally going to want you to have a commercial wildlife breeder's license. And you also need that if you're collecting and breeding native species.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, depending on the game warden, it's generally not that hard to get. They're going to come out and see that you have escape-proof caging. And then they're going to generally leave you alone. A friend of mine got his for alligator snapping turtles. And he goes up to Missouri from Loggerhead Farms and buys them from that guy. And granted, freshwater turtle, I would want an alligator snapping turtle as well. That's the coolest North American turtle in my opinion. But but at the same time, he's also had the game department show up at his house at 3:00 wanting to just poke around, see what's going on.
Yeah.
So a lot of people try to stand their ground and do things the underground way because of stuff like that.
This person, I can't remember what their name was. They were telling me everything I had to do to get the permits and, to do it the right way because they had it the right way. And they had to have, every time a litter was born, a clutch was born, they had to register it with the state of what they were, how many there were, and then where they all went. So they were doing everything legit.
Right.
So, yeah.
And right now, I know of a few people that own them, but I don't know of anyone around that breeds them. But I bet you if you found out the name, it would like click, Because
Yeah, how really think back.
You know how people come and go, and that's okay. I mean, I definitely am glad to see someone breeding the Gila Monsters.
I believe it was a woman. It was a husband and wife, but she's the one I talk to all the time about it. She was the one directing me where to go to get the permits and all. But we moved out of there before. Yeah. So.
Right. Well, and exotics are treated a little differently in Oklahoma. Like if you live out in Silver City or Carrollton, you want to keep a cobra in a cage, no one's going to care. Now, you want to keep a copperhead in a cage, they'll care.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there's 20 in your backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of funny like that here, but
But you can get a permit to keep one though, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. But but it's kind of at the discretion of each county game warden whether or not you whether or not you get that permit or whether or not they think your caging is good enough. And a lot of these people do not know reptiles as well as, people like us.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And I'm not trying to slam them. I'm just saying that's the way it is. Now, granted, you get into your game species like deer and, duck and quail, and yeah, they can tell you far more about that kind of stuff than we ever could think of
Oh,
gleaning.
absolutely.
But, it's like a lot of times, like rattlesnakes aren't escape artists.
Mm-mm.
Um, you really need a really crazy, solid enclosure for something like a milk snake or a king
Oh,
snake.
they're definite escape artists.
They'll,
Yes.
right, they'll get out of anything. And I had a baby Eastern king snake about the size of my pinky. I mean, this thing was tiny. And a friend of mine was driving through, and he had just picked up a snake in his yard. He was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I caught the snake. I'm driving through. I'm going to bring it to you and show it to you. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, good Lord, what has he got?
Yeah.
And he shows up at my house. It's an Eastern milk snake. And he's like, do you want it or should I just let it go? I'm like, well, no, dude, don't let it go. I'll keep it. I got some video of it on my on Angry Atrox channel. And it was small. I didn't know those things could climb up the side of a plastic bucket
Mm-hmm.
and make it right through the air hole. And the air hole was smaller than the snake. So it's like, did he not crush his liver or one of his lungs doing that? I guess not. And I caught him when he was like 3/4 of the way out. And so I had to get like a critter keeper and like tape all the,
Holes.
different entry points and stuff. It was just nuts.
I seen this this guy. I can't remember what channel it was, but he had a cage system where it was like one solid wall and had individual cages on it, and
Right.
he had a king snakes in them. All right, locked doors, couldn't get out. But in the back, there was just a slight little slice for air to get through, for air, real tiny. And he come walking in his house one day, and he's walking past the cage, and he looks down, he's like, well, that ain't supposed to be in there. And here the one got out of that cage, went into the other cage, and ate the one in the other cage. And he doesn't know how it... He said you could barely fit a card through there, but it got out. But, they're escape artists, so...
And a lot of people I know who keep kings and milks use like those Sterilite tubs with the blue lining.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say they're food grade, but what they are is they just totally seal down. Nothing can squeeze through them.
I use them for my isopods because they got the rubber seal around. Well, not rubber, but it's like a foam sealer. When you pull it and lock it, that squishes it tight. They ain't getting out of them.
Yeah, and you kind of have to make the air holes very, very small and just
Mm-hmm.
have a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way you have to do it. But king snakes and milk snakes will dang near get out of anything.
Yes, they will. I have to agree with you there.
And the thing of it is like two weeks ago, I had like a 4-foot Western Diamondback. It was from West Texas area, down by Big Bend, and the screen on its tank lid had separated from the plastic, and I didn't realize this. The snake never even thought to try to get out. He's just sitting there at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, big 40-gallon long breeder, and he's in a totally secure building. When I designed this building, I made sure there was no way for anything to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So I throw the rat in there because he always just takes his rat, right off the bat. He's a real good eater. And I figured I'd just let him sit in there with a stomach full of food. Give him, 6-7 hours after he gets that rat down, I'll move him to a bucket, until I can, go get another tank or get something else cleaned up and in operation. The rat gets out.
Of course the rat will get out.
There's like this hole about this size in the screen where it connects to the lid.
Mm-hmm.
And the rat somehow made it up, out, over, and for whatever reason, this one time this rattlesnake didn't just like pop it within seconds of throwing it in there.
Of
And I
course,
was
the
just
rat
like,
didn't want to
well,
hang out there.
right. So, sadly, the rat, when I detected him free in the building, was moving across the floor to like my supply area, which I didn't want him to get into because he could get hidden in there and
Oh yeah.
it'd be hard to get out. So something really bad, nefarious, and cruel happened to this rat
It
as he was
happens.
going across the floor. It's not the kind of thing I'd put on YouTube. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But had to take the rat out mid concrete.
Yeah. Of course.
People don't realize back in the 80s in zoos and stuff, everybody bred their own rats, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't do frozen thawed. They killed them and then threw them in the cage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I know. When I at the pet store, we would get rats in all the time back in the '80s, and then one time they just all stopped, and I'm like, why can't we get rats? Well, here, all the schools and universities bought all the rats to test for AIDS to see, because that's when AIDS was first coming out, and they were trying to come up with a cure for it, and you couldn't get them, so everybody who did get them had to breed their own.
right. And I know the whole live feeding debate is just kind of raging right now. But I see both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to feed some stuff frozen thawed. I prefer, I generally it's just kind of easiest to take a difficult eater and, for lack of a better word, I'll say stun the mouse
Mm-hmm.
and then drop him in there. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And and once again, you kind of have to, kind of like I said, some species you just have to really watch, like that prairie rattlesnake, who would, I drop a live mouse in there when I first got him, thinking he's going to take this thing out, because you know what beasts those are. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
like they'll stand 4 feet off the ground and look you in the eye. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just kind of crazy. But this one in particular would hide from the mouse. The mouse would chew on his rattle. He'd take off and go hide in his
Yeah.
box. The mouse would go chase him in his box. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God. So I got some of it on video, which I haven't released, probably won't release to the general public because it'll wind up being a Mortal
Oh,
Kombat situation. But like
well,
literally, I've got a mouse chasing a rattlesnake on video. It's quite
yeah,
hilarious.
you're such a mean person, right? Yeah. No, I back in the day, back in the early to mid '80s, I had a ball python that would only eat pre-killed rats.
Right.
Now, back then, you couldn't buy a pre-killed rat, so it wasn't a
Right.
good situation.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Iron Dog. Chris is here.
I in the 87 to 89 years,
Mm-hmm.
I volunteered at our local zoo. And that's back when you could even volunteer in reptiles. Like today, I hear that the teenage volunteers don't even get to work in the reptiles because, legalities, politics, all this stuff. But I took care of the rodent colony
Yeah.
for the entire, Tulsa Zoo. And I would kill 250 mice and 50 rats every Friday. But I got to be, next to the curator who was like my idol,
Yeah.
and it was an experience I wouldn't trade for anything, but I also wouldn't want to do it again. I'll say
No.
that.
No, it's my outlook on things have changed so much since back then. It's weird. I understand about the live feedings, and I know people do it on their channel, which is not a you do what you want to do. It's your channel. But there's some things that I see that I'm like, that's not a good idea.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and my thing is, I had read something a while back where YouTube was targeting crush videos and animal fight videos.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out was that YouTube felt it was problematic that people were uploading videos of cockfighting,
Mm-hmm.
dog fighting, like people do with pit bulls.
Yep.
But then also there was this category called crush videos. And like people would find a baby turtle and they'd stomp on it.
Oh, jeez.
Or people would find a baby rabbit and they'd stomp on it. Or hit it with a hammer. They'd upload it to YouTube. Well, okay, the outrage, people start sharing everything. Look at this SOB, let's go get him, blah, blah, blah. And rightfully so, that would bring and draw outrage. But
Mm-hmm.
I know the conversation's been had amongst people at YouTube that, any situation in which an animal hurts another animal, should it be on YouTube? That's why, like Iron Dog, Chris had told me, dude, you need to do a couple of live feeding videos. You'll get your watch time up. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I would. And, and I've got a couple of like king snakes and things that I could do that with. But it's just kind of like, I kind of don't, I'm kind of thinking that eventually live feedings videos are going to go away, whether we think they should or not.
Here's what I'm thinking. Okay, you do your live feedings, but if they decide to hit it and they find you have 200 of these videos on there, they might take your whole channel down. Just to say, you're in violation now. So,
and that's what and that was my thought after reading that one article about the crush videos,
mm-hmm.
and it really kind of went in depth a little more and kind of touched on things like, people feeding chickens to alligators and stuff, and so I thought, yeah, like doing one or two of those maybe is okay, but if you base your whole channel on that, what I would be scared of is, like you said, you might lose the whole channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe that's like a good strategy. Like I know Derek and Iron Dog are in here tonight, and I know they have had their share of live feeding videos. It doesn't offend me. I don't care.
It doesn't offend me either.
Right, but I would. I'm not saying I'm suggesting anybody do this, but I would look at starting to make videos that get away from that. Like, this is my king snake or this is my rat snake, and doing educational stuff. I just think it would be a good idea to start diversifying, because that way, while your channel has momentum and steam, you're starting to inject something new in it. And, and yeah, exactly, Iron Dog. Very sad. And when people were doing that just to get outrage, I mean, it's not like people feel threatened by a baby rabbit. They don't. But and yeah, and the same thing with like firearms. I mean,
now he says you can't. You're not allowed to show firearms on there or whatever. But now, what about Kentuckian and Demolition Ranch and stuff like that? They do it.
Well, okay.
Kentuckians stick a thumb in it.
Right.
Did you ever see that video?
I don't think I saw that one.
He did a 50 cal. He bought it. He had a 50 cal and he bought these rounds for it. And he put it in, and when he shot it, the gun blew up, and the piece went right in his neck.
I did see that.
And he had to stick his thumb in it to stop himself from bleeding to death.
Yes.
So now he's got the shirt. Just stick a thumb in it.
What Live Freedom is referring to is a lot of people have put out like education videos, like okay, like imagine this is a 357 or a 38. This is a 38. This is how you turn on the safety. This is how you clean it. This is how you put the ammo in it. This is how you shoot it. Just basic, I won't say non-threatening, but just basic like gun information. And some of those channels are starting to get flagged. Now, my beef with YouTube for some time has been, it is not consistent at all.
No.
This guy gets 1 million views and he keeps getting millions and millions of views. This guy over here does the exact same comment, and he gets nuked at 50 views. And that's another thing about the live feeding videos. Before, I had run onto the gang from My Animal House and Iron Dog.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who called himself the Viper Veteran. He's down in Texas. And I want to say he did like 2 live feeding videos right after he had hit monetization.
Mm-hmm.
And they just demonetized his whole channel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also know he had haters and people attacking him. And people were like purposefully going and flagging his videos because he was kind of like a patriotic type of guy.
Yeah.
And today he's on TikTok, and he's not on YouTube. He doesn't produce anything new for YouTube. But once again, it's like, there's other channels out there, and I'm not running them down at all. But it's like they get away with it. He did 1 or 2 videos, and he got nailed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of an interesting thing about this platform.
Oh, yeah. But like I said, if they decide one morning to wake up and say, you know what, if you get the right people in working at YouTube and they're saying, live feedings have to go, they'll just go through your channels and be like, this channel's gone, this channel's gone, this channel's gone. Then where will you be?
Well, exactly. I mean, Roundup Rodeo was kind of a fluke for me because I never intended for any of those videos to be seen by a wide-scale audience.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to place on YouTube to where, when I get into an online debate with someone, and they say, "Well, you've never been to the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup." Oh, really? Here's me sitting in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the video of it. It's 2018. Here's me inside the Coliseum. You want to talk some more, Jack?
Yeah, at least you got proof, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But one of those videos got picked up and took off. And next thing you know, I'm sitting here with a monetized platform. So I'm kind of trying to ride the wave while I got it.
I don't have a problem with the live feedings. What I have a problem with is when somebody does like the scorpion versus the tarantula type of thing, or the bullfrog tries to kill the snake or something like that. And I mean, I understand in a wild bullfrog, if a snake's going across the water, we'll grab it and eat it.
Yeah.
But,
one thing I'll throw onto that is I had the free version of TubeBuddy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think it was real useful for reptile-related stuff. Others may disagree. But one of their suggested titles was this versus that.
Mm-hmm.
And TubeBuddy seems to be affiliated with YouTube. I think it probably is ran by YouTube. I could be wrong.
I remember TubeBuddy, yeah.
But it's like that was one of their suggestions, is like man versus cottonmouth, or snake versus dog. And once again, my understanding of TubeBuddy, and my limited understanding of TubeBuddy, was that it takes whatever's popular or whatever's trending and kind of gives you suggestions
mm-hmm.
as to how to tag your videos, what to title your videos, what thumbnail works best with your videos. And, so you're kind of looking at, here's this, platform that, TubeBuddy, I would swear, is ran by YouTube. The logos are similar, everything.
Oh, yeah, I think it is.
And they're suggesting that you do this stuff, and now that's the debate of whether or not we should be showing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really liked what you had to say last night about, you're bringing more attention to these people. If you really don't like what these people do, don't say anything.
Yep.
And
just don't. If you put it out there, like especially a big channel like that one,
mm-hmm.
What do they got? 50,000, 60,000 subscribers. You put it out there and they get 10,000 views. There's 10,000 people going to go, well, let me go check out that channel. And then there's going to be some of them that are going to say, you know what, I like this, and they're going to stay there anyway.
Right. And I just don't like people. That drama has been going on in the reptile community since the dawn of time. You remember some of the old stuff. I mean,
oh, jeez.
I mean,
It was absolutely insane.
right. And I'm just like, I don't care. I want to mess with the animals I want to mess with. I'm going to put out my YouTube videos. Most of them are going to be as non-offensive as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I mean, if I get views, I get views. If I don't, I don't. I wanted monetization, and still want that to be like an option on like my other channels. But I'm also seeing how quickly people lose it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they'll take it from you in a second. I had a the reason I don't monetize, but I'm thinking about doing it. But the reason I don't is because I have spinal bifida. There was a guy with spinal bifida did a YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
and he shared it to a bunch of. He started up a YouTube channel, so back then you only needed like 100 people to be monetized, you know, and he monetized it. And what he did is he shared it to all the groups that were involved with spinal bifida. Well, everybody went over and watched it.
Right.
Well, the guy had like 200,000 hits on one video. He only had like 3 videos up, so they demonetized him, saying he had to be doing something illegal or something for them to,
Well, and
not
another
illegal, but he had to be cheating somehow to get that many views.
well, and what's funny is I think there's probably artificial intelligence deployed in the YouTube application
Mm-hmm.
to where, like, okay, like my one video that like went over 1 million views that got my channel monetized, I got 4,000 watch hours in less than 3 days.
Yeah,
I hadn't
crazy.
got that on my other channel that I'd been really working on for 4 years. So I'm sitting there thinking, I wouldn't doubt that, something triggered, and they said, this one video is growing too fast. There's got to be something wrong with it. Well, turns out it was, even
Yeah,
though they approved it, they
yeah.
later disapproved it for ads. And I still make like, pennies off of it, but it was making me like 200-300 a month for a while.
Wow.
And once again, that's how I was able to buy my lens, or rationalize buying my new lens for my camera. Um, it's just little things like that kind of can make a difference. It's not like I'm ever going to get rich here, or probably any one of us in chat are ever going to get rich off the platform alone.
Yeah,
But, it's the inconsistency that bothers me.
yeah. I will have to check that out, Iron Dog, because you've heard what I've had to say in private. I've talked to Iron Dog about a few things that I have seen over my many years by these bigger YouTubers, things that they've done that are like, well, and you're complaining about a live feeding video? Seriously.
When you've done it yourself?
Yeah. Well, it was much worse than even live feedings. I'll tell you someday off
Yeah,
air here.
I'm probably sure I've come across it, but
It's crazy. But they don't, people forget. See, people forget.
oh
You
yeah.
know, if you get people my age and your age that have been around that long, they know, they've seen it, and then they do this, and you're like, well, why would you do that?
Well, and I said something in RAR, which I'm still just barely loosely affiliated with. I'm still an admin there.
Mm,
All the gas has gone out of that Facebook group, but one person had called out another person, or had called out a rattlesnake roundup performer, and had basically tied him to the Sweetwater JCs. And I said, that guy is hated by the Sweetwater JCs.
mm,
I know the guy. I know some of the Sweetwater JCs, and I also know what caused the rift between them. And he never performed at Sweetwater anyway. And I had freaking 20-year-old kids who once again have never even been to a roundup, telling me that I'm wrong, and I'm sitting there going, okay, block, delete, kick out a group, block, delete, kick out a group. But the lack of support I got from my fellow admin in that situation
mm-hmm.
was kind of almost like, if I'm going to continue being active about this issue, I'm just going to do it on my own.
Yeah, you're probably better off.
I don't need an organization. It's just, it's other people wanting to write off the hard work that you're doing. And then every roundup season, the admin over there ask me the same 15 questions they asked me last year.
Hmm.
You guys need to get you a notebook or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll just go back to last year's post and read it.
exactly. Oh, I did that a couple of times. I would tag them from posts like 4 years ago that I remembered.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you realize that issue has been my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I mean, there's not a lot else I've done. I mean, granted, I've done this. I've done this in business. I've done this in academia. Went to grad school, stuff like that.
Mm.
But really, it's like, what are people going to remember me for eventually? That's going to be that one issue.
They're going to remember you pushing videos down their throats, man. I was laughing when you said that the other day.
This is true.
Yeah. I've seen some pretty, even 15 years ago, some of these bigger YouTubers, some of the stuff that they did, and then now for them to do this, it just blows my mind completely. Because they really shouldn't be causing, with the situation we're in now, they really shouldn't be causing trouble.
Right.
Really.
And like I said, the one person in question was, they were going after this one guy out west because like a giant python struck at him, and they were like, they shouldn't be airing this, they shouldn't be showing this, and then they have it in their own intro.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like it's like saying, I should own venomous snakes, but you shouldn't own venomous snakes.
No.
I should own guns, but you shouldn't own guns.
If they educated people, I'm serious, like, okay, somebody gets attacked by a giant python. If people knew how to react in that situation through education, they would be much better off. One thing I could tell you about almost any snake that bites and constricts, if you grab its tail and start bending it up towards its back, it'll let go instantly.
Right.
No matter what it is, it'll let go. Big python, anything. If you see somebody wrapped up by a big python, if you grab its tail,
yep,
and bend it straight back towards its back, it'll let go right away because it thinks something's trying to eat it from the other end. Let's go right away. Boom.
And I've used that trick before myself. I've had different king snakes and different pythons over the years. That I had a Colombian rainbow boa that this thing just thought everything was a food source. It was nasty.
Yeah, I have a king snake like that.
And I would literally, I got to where like I'd done the cold water, I'd done the pouring out, rubbing alcohol in its mouth. Didn't really like doing that because I thought, if you get some down its throat, I mean, it could, injure the animal. But I also can't leave the snake on my arm all day and he's not letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, someone told me about that, get the back of the tail and scoop it and just kind of start moving it backwards. And it sure enough worked. And I sold that rainbow boa and I said, look, when you decide that you do not want this snake any longer, you can bring him back to me, but you're not getting your money back. I think I sold that snake 3 times. Everybody would take it home. It would lock with their female. They'd get a clutch of babies. Then that snake would come back. I should have just said, look, Colombian rainbow boa for rental. Stud fee.
Service.
Stud fee. Exactly.
Stud service. Yeah, no. It's but yeah, anything like that, if you just grab its tail and bend it back, it'll let go right away. A lot of nerves in the tail, and it's it does it. I think it thinks something's trying to eat it from the other end, so it'll let go of it right away.
Well, and I dealt with a situation in Bixby last year where some people I knew were having rat snakes get into their attic.
Mm-hmm.
As a very, very narrow attic. There wasn't room for like me to get up there and crawl around. And I'm not a real big guy. I mean, I'm like 5'2", I just, you would think I would be able to kind of wrangle around up in there. And I looked up there, there's no way I can get in between these rafters. And they were like, well, how do we get the snakes out? And I'm like, you're probably just going to have to wait for them to come out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to kill them. or you're going to have to when you see one coming down out of there, because they had seen this.
Mm-hmm.
I said, grab it, throw it outside, and then make sure you seal the holes out in the outside perimeter where they're getting in. Well, we're not going to grab it. Well, okay, I don't know what to tell you at that point, because literally it would get up in the big 4 or 5 foot long western rat snake would get up in their rafters, would coil around one of the rafters. And once again, short of the tail trick, like what you mentioned, you're not going to get a constrictor off a piece of wood without the tail trick.
Yeah.
I mean,
they think something's eating it or something.
Right. And they don't let go easy. I mean,
it's like my sister has a house, and every summer you'll sit there and look at her siding, and behind her siding you'll see little garter snake heads popping out. And I'm like, I don't know I wouldn't know how to get rid of them, because you could just see them stick their head out from behind the siding and stuff.
Well, and a lot of times, like I told these people, because I was like literally running over to their house every time they would see the snake. These are good people, but I would tell them, do not go out in the garage, do not turn on the light. Just when you see it, turn off the light, shut the door, do not go back out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, next thing you know, I'd go back on, I'd get over there and the light would be on in the garage. And it's just like, after about 4 trips, I was just like, look, if you guys got to kill this thing, kill it. I hate that, but, give him a pair of snake tongs. And once again, it didn't work when the snake was able to get up in the rafters and secure itself.
Yeah, holds on. See, biting a tail like that. I see, the thing with biting a tail is the tail's been through piss and shit, literally, and I don't really want to put that in my mouth, so I'll just grab it and bend its tail back.
It's just a little salmonella, Andrew. Come on.
No big deal, right? Yeah.
Right. I was talking to Jack Bibby, the guy who lost his leg. He's an old Roundup guy.
Yes, I know exactly who he is.
And I was talking with him and this other guy who's part of his little group that they only work one Roundup these days. They work Oglesby, Texas Roundup. Mm-hmm. They're not welcome in Sweetwater. They're not welcome in Brownwood.
Because they're controversial, very controversial.
Very controversial. But he's one of his partner that he was working with him said something like, "Yeah, we're the last of a dying breed." And I said, "Yeah, do you reckon there's a reason for that dying part?" Because all these guys have been bit 10, 11 times, lost fingers,
look at Jack's hands,
mm-hmm.
and then he lost a leg now.
Mm-hmm.
So seriously.
But you know what, though, Andrew? Let's give him props for some things. He told the Houston Chronicle, I was there when the interview happened. He said gassing needs to be outlawed. He said we don't need to outlaw hunting rattlesnakes, but burrow gassing, that the time for that to be over with has come and gone. I've seen kids approach him, and this time is not in front of cameras. What I'm talking about. I've seen kids approach him and say, "Hey, I want to get into handling rattlesnakes. I like rattlesnakes. What do I do to do what you do?" And he tells them, "Look, you'd be far better off to go down to the college and get a biology degree and do something on a professional level instead of doing what I do. Because what I did was a long, hard road with a lot of bites, and there was some money in it for a while. There's not nearly as much anymore." And he's to me, I think he's kind of doing and saying some of the right things for still being in the position he's in.
I see him put a rattlesnake on his head.
I've seen that stunt done. There's some tricks to that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they peck around with a snake hook and find the snake that'll duck its head under its coils. And then they call it pancaking. They scoop it up with their hands. And the rattlesnakes will generally protect their heads, or they will try to kill you. That's kind of their two modes of operation. And And they'll sit there and they'll, not this one, not this one, not this one, this one. And that's the one they use for the stunt. And sometimes it does come uncoiled. And moments after that guy and me had that conversation, he got bit on the head because he was attempting the same stunt.
See, weird. Crazy. You mean Ray Hunter? Is that who you're talking about, Iron Dog?
Yeah, Cobra Man Ray Hunter. Yeah.
Well, that's like Bill Haas, too. He was bit, I don't even know how many times. But he worked with Bill Haas.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But that's getting into your subject of free handling. Well, I will never encourage it.
Mm-mm.
You know, Bill Haas did a ton of free handling, and so many of the venomous elite will, you know, just idolize him. But then some kid does today what Bill Haas did 50 years ago, and he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And once again, it's a double standard and inconsistency.
Yeah, well, that's true. But back when Bill Haas did it, it was just Bill Haas. Now today there's this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And then there wasn't all these regulation groups trying to go out and get the hobby crushed.
Right.
Now there is. And that's the difference.
And that kind of stuff will eventually play a role. The venomous escapes and stuff are horrific.
Yeah. Oh.
And what people don't really know about me is I've known like a lot of people in PETA, in the HSUS, Outreach for Animals, World for Animals, all these animal rights groups. I know a lot of them. I know what they do.
Yeah.
See, some of them got involved with the Roundup issue. And I know some of they're like, well, you know, you get video, you do this. You know, they go into a slaughterhouse, they get this video this way. You know, they use like a chest cam, they do this. And, you know, you want to do this. And we'd swap ideas and stuff. And keep in mind, my only goal was like helping these wild rattlesnakes over here. Yeah. I wasn't taking up the USARK banner or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not saying USARK is bad. I think it's a good thing. But yeah, but the guy did the Vice video in Sweetwater. He does that. He injects venom into himself. Mm-hmm. And because Iron Dog was asking about that, and I think if you want to do that, it's your body, it's your call.
Here's the situation with that. If you really don't know what you're doing, you can really mess yourself up. Because I'm going to tell you a story. I knew a guy. I didn't know the guy, but I seen it. And he was watching Bill, you know, because Bill did that and Ray did that. And he's like, well, I should start doing that. Well, he started doing that. And he was doing really good. Until one day he did it, and he just a little bit too much. And he said, you know, it would give you energy and stuff like that. Well, he ended up having to have surgery and everything because it just destroyed a big hole in his leg. It was bad.
Gosh.
Really, really bad. Because if you just do just the wrong amount, it's like 1 drop for every 1,000 drops of water type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then if you mix in all the venoms together, it's a lot. But I see how it can work. Because like Bill Haas, he saved somebody's life that way because he was able to give him blood right from him.
Right.
He had the venom in him already.
Yeah.
And he lived to 102.
And he had how many bites? Over 50?
Yeah. Well,
maybe
over 50, I think.
I think it might have been closer to 100.
Yeah, it was up there. But, you know, it kind of shows how the venom does have an anti-aging type of thing, so...
Yeah. And I just think it's kind of like an individual decision. You should really know what you're doing. I think Tim Freed, he seems to know what he's doing. He does that kind of stuff. You know, and you know, would I do it? No. I plan on finishing all this out and never getting bit by anything.
Well, here's what I got to say. If you're working with these animals every day like they are, have to handle them because of milking reasons, it might be an okay idea, you know.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
Iron Dog, yeah, you better know what you're doing, that's for sure.
and the flip side of that is one of my friends was a roundupper in Western Oklahoma, and he was the guy that did the handling shows.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy named Tony, a real nice guy. I didn't agree with what he did. He knew it. I knew it. Um, he had gotten bit 3 times, and that third bite, the third Atrox bite he took, he had a bad reaction to the antivenin.
Mm-hmm.
And they told him, look, do not ever get anywhere around any of these animals ever again. Because if you do, we're not going to be able to treat you. We can't give you any more antivenin. We can't ethically do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so about 7 years ago, he went to go get a rattlesnake out of someone's garage. It was local. It was out there where the hunt was, and that
Mm-hmm.
was the town he lived in. And he took a bite, and he got airlifted to a hospital in Oklahoma City, where they just let him lay there until he died. They said literally, we cannot do the antivenin; it'll kill him. So we're going to give him this and give him antibiotics and see if he rides this out. And these, you get into some of your rural Oklahoma hospitals, they don't know how to treat snake bite. In
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma City and Tulsa, they generally know how to treat it. And they just let him die, and he died at 44, 45.
Mm-hmm.
Left behind, a wife, and I don't think he had any kids, but I knew he left behind a wife. Super nice guy, just did things and took too many chances, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm sure when he went to get that rattlesnake out of the garage, I mean, he was using tongs to get it. So I mean, I know he wasn't like grabbing it by the tail like a lot of people do, and
Yeah.
and stuff. And I mean, so my honest guess is he was being careful, but when he was putting the lid on the bucket, he miscalculated something, and he got nailed right in the vein in his arm, and it just went all through him real quick. And I mean, just imagine being in your early mid 40s, whatever, and just dying of snake bite,
Yeah.
knowing that you can't like take the antidote.
The antidote, the problem with the antivenom, the problem is that you're not allergic to the antivenom itself. You're allergic to the horse or the goat or whatever it is they use for the, you're allergic to that animal. You're usually never allergic to the venom.
It's the other stuff that's in it.
Yep.
And allergic reactions, I saw a study by Dr. Spencer Green on that. Allergic reactions are very, very rare in U.S.
Mm-hmm.
snake envenomations. Like less than 0.009%
Mm-hmm.
of the cases do they even, I mean, they don't, so they don't even worry about the allergy aspect of it until they see the
You have one.
symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And then they treat it with like liquid Benadryl
Mm-hmm.
in a hospital setting. But you see people on message boards around here that say, don't take copperhead bites seriously. Just
Oh,
take some Benadryl and Tylenol, and people wind up dead that way. I mean,
absolutely. You can have an issue with
mhm.
anything because you can have an allergic reaction to the venom itself.
Yeah,
There was a guy in Ohio who worked with cobras and spitting cobras and stuff like that, and because he had to clean the cages every day,
yeah,
or not every day, but when he would clean the cages, he would have to clean the glass and scrape it. Little dust particles of the venom from spitting would get up in the air. Well, over time, he gained an allergy to that. So when he got bit by the cobra, the spitting cobra, 10 seconds later he was on the floor out. And within an hour he was dead. There was nothing they could do. And he even had antivenom, but there was nothing they could do. Because he had built up because he was exposed to it so much he became allergic to it. Just like people with mealworms can become allergic to the frass and stuff like that after working with them for so long. Same thing.
Right. Well, and like you'd brought up Ryan from Canada.
Yeah, I didn't. No, I was
Okay,
talking about what's there. Yeah, I didn't. I was reading his thing. I
you're
didn't
fine.
know he had said that. Did he say that on a recent video or something? I'll have to
I,
check
I,
it out.
I think so. But Ryan from Canada
Mm-hmm.
took a. He was working with a prairie rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
This has happened to me probably 5 or 6 times over the last 10 years. The snake struck the screen lid of the tank
Mm-hmm.
and juiced, shot venom.
Mm-hmm.
He got some in his eye, like his left eye. Now he's having problems with his eyesight in that eye.
Mm-hmm.
And so now like I used to would go out there to the building or whatever, or when I'd go to work with something, I wouldn't even wear protective glasses. Now it's like they're on every time
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just like, I'd never heard of anyone getting venom in their eye and it causing their eye to have eyesight problems.
Mm-hmm.
But here's Ryan. I think he goes by Ryan First Diver today. I don't know what's up with that. It used to be Ryan Heavy Hand.
Oh, that's what it was. Ryan Heavy Hand.
Ryan
Yes.
Heavy Hand. But I just thought, my gosh, I'm working with the same crotolid species,
Mm-hmm.
very similar venoms, and it's just. And then, like I said, I have one that will hit the tank. If he sees you, he'll hit the tank. I leave a blanket on this deal most of the times.
The reason I would worry about it with like any kind of rattlesnake is because their venom is very tissue destroying, and you got to think that your eyes, because of rubbing them or something, could have little micro scratches in it or anything.
Right.
So I would think glasses would be a good thing.
Yeah, and it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, wow, I'd never heard of that before. I never knew that to happen before. But now that it's happened to someone I know, I'm going to
Yeah,
take these steps to
steps. Yep.
make sure
Well,
it
that's like
doesn't happen to me.
I suppose if you have a cut on your hand too and a venom shot on your hand, you could be in trouble.
I've heard that's happened before. I do know that like you can drink venom, and if you don't have like a cut in your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
it'll just get destroyed by the enzymes in your stomach.
Yep.
Seen people do it. Seen people extract venom into a shot glass and then slam it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, it's Oklahoma, man. There's not a lot of entertainment out here.
No,
So
but if you have a cut in your mouth, you can be in trouble.
exactly. And but like I've also seen a lot of rattlesnake bites just being around the roundup circuit, and a lot of people, they just get out of the pit and they sit down in a lawn chair and wait to see if they have signs before they even call the ambulance. And usually there's an ambulance within a block or two of any
Mm-hmm.
rattlesnake roundup because they know someone's going to go down. It's just going to
Naturally.
happen.
Yeah.
And so, but I know a lot of people like that guy who got bit on the head. It was later, he refused medical treatment, and it was, for what we know, a dry bite
Yeah.
because he had no swelling, no temperature change, no taste in his mouth difference.
Mm-hmm.
The things that people characterize with a rattlesnake bite. He didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
And so he just refused medical treatment, was back in the pit doing the show in 3 hours.
We had a case here where a kid, he was about 15 years old,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, out in the backyard, got bit by a prairie rattlesnake and was in serious life-threatening issues within a short time. I mean,
Right.
seriously bad. But then again, it depends on how pissed off the rattlesnake was and how much venom they released. Maybe.
Well,
I don't know. But he could have had allergic reaction to it too. He was in serious trouble though.
well, and the thing that I like to remind people about venom is, depending on what health conditions you have,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a whole different scenario. A copperhead bite deaths are really, really rare. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's like one every 50 years. It's usually the case of someone who refuses medical treatment. And what people don't understand is if a copperhead sinks some venom into you, it is a life-threatening emergency, even though they're known as being a weaker
Mm-hmm.
venomous species. Um, same for cottonmouths. Very few people die from cottonmouths. The ones that do seem to be the ones that are either have an underlying health condition
Mm-hmm.
or they refuse medical treatment. And the thing I like to keep in mind about venom is you might get bit by a large diamondback rattlesnake and you could be dead in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have a full 6 to 8 hours to make it to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you just don't know.
No.
And you don't, and because like everybody's body's so different and everybody's health issues are so different,
Mm-hmm.
like what affects one person might not affect another. Did you by chance know Chuck Hurd?
I don't think so.
Back in the day, he passed away about 5 years ago, I think. He was buddies with Chris Law. Do you remember Chris Law?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say they were old buddies. Now, if I get a threatening message from Chris tomorrow, I'll find out that I was wrong. But he knew like Randy Jones down in Mississippi, and he knew Randall Berry, all those old guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he took a hit from an Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake, and his kidneys never recovered.
Oh yeah.
He took a good juicing from one of them, and his kidneys were damaged. He was 44, 45 on dialysis, and then he just went downhill after that bite. And technically, like, he had diabetes, he had all these other issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of think, looking back, I don't want to say that I know that's what kind of brought him to an end, but
Mm-hmm.
it seemed to be a definite catalyst. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then there's people like, Dr. Means, who took a Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake bite, on an isolated Florida island, and it took him 6 hours to get to the hospital. He did
Mm-hmm.
just fine.
Yeah.
And he's just fine today.
He was hallucinating a little bit though.
Yeah, he was.
He said he hallucinated a little bit.
Yeah, if you watch King Rattler, you'll
Yep.
see that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, from what I understand, he had no permanent organ damage or anything. So
No. Yeah. No. Again, it's your body determines on what it's going to do.
and you never know with venom. I mean, it's a really, really unpredictable force.
People get bit by hognose snakes, right? Don't have no issues. But then there's people who get bit by hognose snakes and skin starts falling off their bite. I mean, it's horrible. I've seen some pretty horrible pictures from a hognose snake biting into a hand. The Viper Keeper. You know the Viper Keeper, right? You've seen.
Oh yeah.
Al told me, he goes, he wouldn't hold a hognose snake. He goes, because he's seen, he has medical reports of some serious where people got bitten and ended up in the hospital for months with serious issues from a hognose snake bite.
And every hognose I've ever handled they've all been wild. I mean, I've handled a few captive hognose, but I've never been bitten by a wild hognose snake. And you would think if it was going to happen, it would happen there. It would happen with a wild one, not a captive born one. But I've pulled. I would not hesitate to handle one to like get it out of the road or throw it in a bucket or stage it for a picture.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't hesitate, but at the same time, it's like, look at what's happened to some people.
Mm-hmm.
And so today, like, I was in the local pet store down the way, and this guy, John, who owns the place, was like showing like I want to say a pine snake to a kid. He had it out and was kind of handling it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, can you help me with this for a second? Because I gotta go check this person out. I was like, yeah, pass it to me. And I was like handling it, and I kept keeping away from the head. like I was geared to think it was a venomous snake.
Mm-hmm.
I just have those reactions. And, you know, when I clean cages or something, I do, like 2 or 3 at a time. I never get in a position of where I'm doing it and I'm tired
Mm-hmm.
or not paying attention. And it's just, and like I said, anymore, I almost treat every snake as though it is venomous. It's kind of a bad thing because you can sit there with like a garter snake and you're like,
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing to be like that because of what you do. You don't want to ever put your guard down. But there's a YouTuber called Exotic Lair. I don't know if you've seen him before. He's a tarantula keeper.
yeah.
Okay. Well, he's got another channel called Exotic Extras
Mm-hmm.
or Lair Extras or something like that. And he has a hognose snake, and his buddy came over and picked it up and it bit him on the hand, right in the center of the hand, like held on. And they got it off. And within an hour, they had to take him to the hospital. His whole arm was swelled up. His hand had a big hole in it, and it just. So he did a video of it when it bit him at the hospital the next day, a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks, and it just his hand was in bad shape for weeks with sores and blisters and so.
Well, and there's things like Gila Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
I knew a zookeeper who took like a small bite from a Gila monster.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even think he got envenomated,
Mm-hmm.
and so they watched him for a little while. You think you need to go to the hospital? No, I'm fine. And he goes in for a checkup like 2 months after this,
Mm-hmm.
and his doctor says, "Look, you've had 2 minor heart attacks."
Yeah, see?
And we think were you exposed to any venom? That's what they asked him. They had seen something before that made them think this was tied to the venom.
Uh-huh.
This guy didn't even feel anything,
Yeah.
other than the little prick of the teeth. And so you really just venomous anything are kind of scary to some degree.
There was a guy in Arizona who was in his garage and it was a Gila monster and he picked it up, a small one. It was just a baby one. He picked it up and he tried to get it out of the garage and it bit him on the finger. And he got it off pretty quick, but he didn't think none of it. About a half hour later, he's driving his car and he started tasting copper in his mouth.
Yep.
So he's like, I'm wondering if that has something to do with this. So he decided to go to the hospital. Before he got to the hospital, he passed out behind the wheel of the car and they had to rescue him because that's how serious that was. And it was only a little bite. And it's because he started having a reaction to the venom.
Well, and the other side of that is I've heard some stories from like some people like who do professional venom extraction.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'm not going to get into names. Those people, some of them don't like me, some of them do, and I'm just not going to draw that. But like he was talking about being being called to the hospital to help consult on what they thought was a venomous snake bite, and a father and son were out fishing. The son got bit by a snake. They thought it was a cottonmouth. They were in Kentucky. The dad is so, panicky. He actually has a heart attack on the way to the hospital. The kid wrecks his car, runs off the road because he's worried about his dad, wrecks his car, and then it calls for an ambulance at that point because dad is, I don't know if he knew he was having a heart attack at the time, but that's what happened. So the kid just sits there and gets nervous waiting on the ambulance. He decides to cut off his own finger.
Holy cow.
And so he does it with a fillet knife because he's worried the venom is in his finger. And the whole moral of the story was the dad had killed the snake, threw it in the back of the truck, and it was a non-venomous northern water snake.
Crazy.
Heart attack, car wreck, finger amputation, backwoods style. all over a non-venomous snake bite.
Uh,
So we can see where like the fear. I tell people the fear of being bit by a snake often is worse than getting bit by the snake itself,
yeah.
because lots of people get bit by venomous snakes like in this area, and it's just rarely are there any deaths or any really serious injuries because our local hospitals are very good at treating snakebite. I mean, they just are throughout the South.
I was watching a show of like one of them ER shows,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy goes, yeah, well, his girlfriend came in to the emergency room. He had to take his girlfriend to the emergency room because she was bit in the knee by like a little 3-inch snake, and she started getting sick. So he's like, I'm trying to tell you, it's not a venomous snake. It's just like a water snake or something. And he sticks his hand in his pocket, and it latches onto his finger, and he pulls it out. And he's like, see? But it was a copperhead. It was a baby copperhead. So it got her in the knee, got him in the finger. And the ER doctor was like, this is why we tell you don't bring the animal in.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
Well, in most native cases, you're going to get crow fab,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just going to wait for the signs of envenomation before they give it. Now, there's still like I heard a story last year of a lady who had been bit by a snake at Lake Copan or something, and more than likely it was like a northern water snake.
Mm-hmm.
It's most populated snake up there in that area. Not a high concentration of venomous. There are some western Massasauga timber rattlers up there, copperheads, but they're not prevalent.
Mm-mm.
But like literally, the hospital in Bartlesville, to my knowledge, would not administer antivenom unless she had. And this is what they told her: unless you brought in the body of the snake or you got a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually reached out to that hospital, and they wouldn't talk. They wouldn't discuss the case. They wouldn't anything. And my whole thing is, I do agree that if you get a picture of it, that's helpful,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot better than than killing it, trying to bag it, or trying to live capture it in. But it's just like there's still some hospitals out there that are a little flaky when it comes to.
You would think they could run a blood test and see if you had venom in it because they could pick it up.
I don't know that they do that. When people I've known that I've taken to the hospital for bites, they generally like wait for they look for the swelling going up the arm,
Mm-hmm.
or they want to find out if you're having a metallic taste in your mouth, things like that, or clear cut signs of envenomation. And Iron Dog said his worst bite was from a brown recluse. Um, there's things like that.
Yeah. You talk about a brown recluse. My daughter was playing and got bit by one on her butt cheek. No joke. And she started getting sick and everything. So we took her to the hospital, and the doctor looked at it, and it was about the size of a marble. Then a few hours, it was bigger. By the next day, she had a hole. Within a few days, she had a hole about the size of a baseball in her butt cheek. It was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
So,
I have a cousin over in Arkansas who he lost his leg to a brown recluse bite because it got so necrotic. Of course, he was a dumbass. He didn't go to the hospital
mm-hmm.
Until his whole lower leg turned black, and then he finally went. And generally, I generally won't kill a brown recluse even if I catch it in my house. I'll catch it and toss it out in the woods somewhere. I told the wife, I said, if I'm not around, just kill it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told her the same thing about if ever I'm not around and you do see a copperhead in the garage, and she knows the difference between a copperhead and a rat snake.
Mm-hmm.
I said, look, if you have to kill the thing, or if that's what you do, I wouldn't think any
No.
less of you for doing it.
Mm-mm.
It's just, if people don't know what they're doing, it can be dangerous to try to relocate
Mm.
or, stuff like that.
It could be
It's
dangerous
all
trying to kill one.
right. I mean, it's always optimal to like relocate the animal or at least, handle it without killing the animal. But at the same time, that's why like I feel some sense of understanding with the roundups that cropped up in Oklahoma and Texas. These
Mm-hmm.
things started in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and there wasn't good anti-venom. There wasn't, stuff at every major hospital. There wasn't, like I was 3 years ago. I was at the Okeen Roundup in Okeen, Oklahoma. It's the oldest one in the country, and a guy got bit, and it was a serious envenomation. And why Okeen didn't have more than 2 vials of antivenom, I will never know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's like a town that's built on rattlesnakes. Um, but they had to life flight him to Oklahoma City, and it's just kind of like once again, stuff like that 50 years ago wasn't possible. So I
Mm-mm.
understand where all, how this got off the ground.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we need to do it today, but you know,
I seen a like a little history down in Texas. One of the roundups were started in this town. I don't remember which one it was. I don't even know if it's still in operation anymore. It was because the people were worried about their kids getting bit when they were outside playing, so they figured if they did these roundups, they could make money on it and then keep their kids safe to a point. So I understand it.
yeah, I mean, and that's why I try not to be too judgmental or to, you know, a lot of people in the reptile community act just like the PETA crowd
Oh, absolutely, they
and
do.
the
Even
HSUS crowd.
even towards each other.
And then they put that on these roundup people, and it's like, I get it, it's a rattlesnake, and if you know how to deal with it, it's really not that dangerous.
Mm-mm.
But you also don't cuddle with one.
No.
And people say these things like, oh, that's so cute, and I would love to hold it and get it away from those horrible people. And these people are sitting there looking at these people like they're on drugs, they're out to
Yeah.
lunch, because you have to take into account there have been a lot of what happens are dog bites. Like a lot of dogs get bitten in West Texas, Western
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma. Kids occasionally get bitten. Livestock is not as great as was once believed. I mean, it does happen from time to time. A calf will get bitten on the nose
Mm-hmm.
by a rattlesnake. Its air passages will swell up. You lose a calf, something like that. But generally, like your pigs, your large bovines, horses, these things are, I wouldn't say always immune. Some of them are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think a rattlesnake bite will hurt a pig. I've never seen it. I've seen
Oh,
rattlesnakes
yeah.
bite pigs,
Yeah.
and so you're sitting there going, is it livestock or is it just we're worried about the livestock and whatnot? But really, you kind of deal with a cultural aspect where, like, my grandfather taught me how to fish. Okay, in Big Springs, Texas, your grandfather teaches you how to catch rattlesnakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like a cultural issue as well, and people don't understand that. And another reason why I've backed away from RAR so much is so many of the admin are just allowing in these total bizarre animal rights types.
And you don't
It,
want that.
well, to me, they don't make it better, because what happens when the government starts talking about gun control laws?
Mm-hmm.
What happens? Gun sales go through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the same kind of thing happens with these roundups. Every time there's a petition drive or a measure brought up, down in Texas, they find a way to introduce some kind of law to nullify whatever these people are cooking up. That's what happened with the gassing resolution in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
which later got tabled by Texas Parks and Wildlife. And then because Bill was the author of the original petition, they passed a state law saying that any petition heard by Texas Parks and Wildlife has to originate from Texas, has to have a verified signature count of 51% native Texans, which I think that means you're born there, you're raised there, you never left there.
Mm.
And all this stuff. And it's just kind of like, I just think it's at the point, everybody just quit fighting. Let's all go away.
Mm-hmm.
Watch it die. Because these things are on the way out.
Yeah, they are. It's just going to take time.
Well, and the rattlesnakes are going to, in the West, they're going to survive. The Atrox is not going to go extinct.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get 50 herpetologists to back me up on this. There's just thousands of miles of land that is protected. There's thousands of miles of land that is not hunted. There's places in Oklahoma further east than people, further northeast than people think of the Western Diamondback being. I'm not going to say where, but, and right now I'm keeping it under my hat until I think it gets found out by the populace. Then I'm going to be the one that turns in the scientific collection record. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to keep that under wraps as long as I can, and if that goes to the grave with me, so be it.
Yeah.
I don't want people to know that they're there. Because, these are places you wouldn't think. Like, it's kind of almost like if I told you there was a coral snake found in Nebraska, you'd be like, no way. But, this is like further north and east than anyone ever thought. Mm-hmm. So, I'm just going to, keep it in the back pocket for now.
They could be, there's stuff in places that they don't know it's at. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's stuff on range, there's stuff that isn't covered by the range on the range maps. Mm-hmm. And I go through that. I used to go through that debate with like cottonmouth arguments all the time, because everybody has sworn they've seen a cottonmouth in, Beaver County, Oklahoma, and that's like 500 miles away from the closest known population. Mm-hmm. And anything generally west of Oklahoma City gets discounted. There could be transplants. I know there's a population down by Lawton. It's small, it's kind of isolated, and I think it originated from Texas more than Oklahoma. Yeah. Because of the way the land runs into it. But it's just like, how everything's a cottonmouth or a copperhead.
Oh yeah, that's what you hear a lot. It's a cottonmouth.
Right.
It's like here they used to say, well, if you live on one side of the river, you don't have to worry about these prairie rattlesnakes because they will never cross the river. I think to myself, they do swim. So I think they can make it across the river.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they try to say that all the time. They don't cross moving water. They don't cross rivers. I'm like, yeah, I think they do.
Well, and that was what squashed the Quabbin Island, Massachusetts timber rattlesnake relocation project. Mm-hmm. Is locals in Massachusetts were actually afraid of the rattlesnakes leaving the island and swimming across to the mainland, which probably was not likely to happen. It could have happened. Mm-hmm. But they were also concerned about them traveling over the ice. And it's like, those things are going to be deep in hibernation by the time you have ice.
That's a little further away than just the width of a river, though. So
right.
Yeah.
But but it's just like it's amazing what public fear and opinion can do.
Oh yeah.
That Quabbin Island project, Roundup, it's or Iron Dog, it's totally about money.
Oh, and money rules everything.
Well, and even these towns like Waynoka, their Roundup predates Sweetwater's by 12 years. Mm-hmm. Waynoka, Oklahoma. And they generally get about 200 to 300 pounds of rattlesnakes a year. Sometimes they get as low as 100 pounds. but it's like the carnival, the rides, the petting zoo. It's all the other stuff that comes in. A lot of people these days go to a rattlesnake roundup and never even see a snake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people literally, like the Apache roundup in Apache, Oklahoma, is kind of like that. There's two different areas that have snakes. They keep them in buildings. There's a holding pit and there's a butcher shop. You have to pay to get into each of them. And some people go in and see them. A lot of people don't. A lot of people walk up and down the street thinking they're going to see a display in the middle of the street, and they won't.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is changing. These things were just all about the snakes and the snake hunting 50 years ago. Today they've changed. But the one thing that people don't take into account is, like I said, Texas used to have 44 of these at their peak. Today they've got less than 6. And one of those is a big one. And that one's kind of a concern. But at the same time, you know, there's fewer people hunting snake than ever before. And as someone who's tracked the numbers and done the research back through like the 70s and 80s, when it was like a really, really big thing to do, you know, it's just, I have no doubt that a lot of areas that got hit are recovering.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still a lot of places that you can't get on the land. They don't want you on the land because they're afraid if you get bit by a snake on their land, you're going to turn around and sue them.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of behavior has factored in. You know, when I was a kid in the 70s, you know, you could go hunting on almost anyone's land.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't even have up no trespassing signs.
Mm-hmm.
You could just go hunting on their land and, you know, plug away whatever, you know, as long as you didn't tear anything up, no one really cared. No one said anything to you. It's a different story today. Everybody's got an attorney. Everybody's ready to sue at the drop of the hat. All the roundups generally, most of the roundups buy rattlesnakes from the hunters.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Same thing. They pay for them by the pound, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually Sweetwater's kind of a barometer for how the year is going to go. And they were paying $9 a pound, which is high.
True.
In recent years, it's been as low as 50 cents to $1.50 a pound. They were paying $9 a pound. They only got 1,300 pounds. Okay, someone wasn't hunting this year. The weather patterns were off.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple reasons. Texas has had some rough winters over the last couple of years. I think that plays a factor. But still, people go down in Herp, West Texas in the summer and see 10 atrox for every, you know, Great Plains rat snake. I just don't think we're dealing with an extinction situation.
No.
In
Weather
the West.
plays a big role about it. You know?
Yeah.
So.
And keep in mind, a good-sized Western Diamondback, by the time you get the skin, the gallbladder, the meat out of it, the head, and the rattle, you're looking at $80 to $100 worth of parts.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Asian medicine clinics will buy the gallbladders. The meat will sell for like $5-6 a pound. The skins will go for $25. The head will go for $20. The rattle will go for $10. You know, it's just like that. Shared the rattlesnakes with all the roundups. Some of the roundups do like actually co-op with each other. I know of Oklahoma roundups that have bought rattlesnakes from Sweetwater. That's happened because they've like totally wiped out their little local population they had. And I know of like one situation where one roundup in Oklahoma, one guy wants them for the skin. So he processes them. He doesn't chop their heads off with a machete. He actually goes in through their mouth and cuts their spinal column because he wants the head and the skin to all stay intact.
Mm-hmm.
But he takes out the meat and he packs it and he ships it to another roundup that happens like a week later. And so they kind of share resources.
Mm-hmm.
Ghastly and barbaric as it may be, it kind of like lessens the hunting pressure to supply the market.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's still sad to me. It's sad that it goes on. I don't feel like these should be game animals.
Mm-hmm.
I've eaten rattlesnake. I will say it will be a survival situation before I ever eat it again.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't taste like chicken. Um,
That's one of the few things that don't.
well, everybody says everything tastes like chicken, and go eat some fried rattlesnake. It tastes like a dang
I,
snake. It's
yeah,
nasty.
I've eaten alligator, and that don't taste like chicken.
Alligator is a lot better than rattlesnake,
Yeah.
and I cannot stomach alligator well either.
So.
So, I neither here nor there.
Yeah. Well, we've been on for a long time here.
We have.
So I'm gonna hop off. Hang on a minute though. Don't go anywhere because I'm gonna tell you something when we're off air here. I can keep you in the room and tell you something.
Okay.
And then thank you everybody for coming in, and it was great to have everybody here. Peace.